Hello, everyone. Welcome to Jeem, the podcast by the Center for Arab American Studies. I'm Wissam Miligi, Director of the Center for Arab American Studies at the University of Michigan, Dearborn. And today we have a very special guest, an Arab American comic book artist who has been very active in the scene of comic books in Arabic in Egypt and in Arabic-speaking countries and internationally as well. And I would love to welcome Migo. Hello, Migo.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you with us at the Center for Arab American Studies and the Jeem podcast. I would like to begin by asking you, can you talk a little bit about your background, where you're from, what you've studied, where you started?
Sure. Very pleased to be here with you. And my background is, as you said, Migo, comic artist and founder of YA Comics Studio. I was born in Cairo, Egypt, 1988.
And what got you interested in comics?
Started with me in a very early age, as I was into drawing all the time, enjoying all the art details around me. And of course, I was a big fan of reading comics and drawing art in general. Then, in a very early age, I started working as a caricature artist. That was the thing in Egypt, very famous. Most of artists do caricature. For me, it was in a very early age, and it made me realize that caricature is only limited to one frame. I really like to tell stories, like long stories. So, as a storyteller, I try to find another way to express my ideas in a larger scale. And I think comics was the most, or was the best place to tell my ideas in the way I want to tell it, or the way I want to draw it, or the way I want to illustrate it. So it started with me from this point as a caricature artist to be a comic artist, just to tell a story or to be able to tell a lot of stories.
And this is lovely. So storytelling was the reason you started getting interested in comic book artists. How about as an American, in addition to as an Egyptian American, and someone who has been exposed to comics in both cultures? Is there a difference? And there's also, of course, European comics as well. What are some of the differences or similarities you notice between comics or this kind of visual storytelling that you see in American comics and Egyptian or Arabic comics, and maybe in European comics or manga or any of the others that you see?
Big difference is comic in Egypt and in the Middle East in general. They think that it's only made for kids or only kids can read comics. But in America and Europe, they look at it as more as a literal art. Like you can have a graphic novel for adult people, and they can read it and they can enjoy it. So it's not only for kids. Beside the industry or the marketing, is very huge compared to Egypt or Middle East in general. Or I was very lucky. Even when I was in Egypt, I knew a lot about comics. When I came to the US, I started learning more and more about comics. It was also connected somehow to my film studies because I studied film, so filmmaking. So reading comics was part of like learning for me, seeing how images can tell a story, whether it's filmed or whether it's drawn. So that really made a difference for me, understanding comics more, making this connection between comics and how you can tell a story by illustrating some pictures and putting it together in a certain way. So all this added together, and whenever I write story, I think about it visually, as I can tell it in like I can draw it and it can be a comic, or I can film it and it can be a short film or a film in general. So all these ideas, I think, is more clear when you are in US or Europe, but in Egypt or Middle East back then, it was very hard to see all this and the connection between the comics and the cinema and all the other art areas. It's not that like not a lot of people know about comics, but I have to say that lately this has changed a lot, especially with big publishing house in Egypt and Middle East interested in comics and seeing how the comic can make a difference and how people from different ages interested in comics. So they start to pay more attention, and I hope that will change the whole thing in the future.
This takes us to the next question. When you talked about how the scene, the comic book scene in Egypt as one of the Arab countries is recently changing. You yourself have been involved in the Naguib Mahfouz comic book project. Can you talk a little bit about this? I find this really interesting, like adaptation of some of the novels by Naguib Mahfouz into graphic novels, and you are the artist doing that. Can you talk a bit about this project and how you got involved, what you're working on?
Sure. Most important thing is the way we look at comics changed from looking at it as kids stuff into making comics for different ages and different ideas and stuff like that. But we still kind of limited to one way of comics, like the comic that make us laugh, or the comic that had not using all the kind of drama that comics can made out of. So I start thinking about kind of projects out of the books, like what if we try to adopt something from the literal art, some works for Naguib Mahfouz, let's say, and let's see how this can be if it turned into if it's turned to be a comic. So this project started a long time ago. I started like 14 years ago when I was working in Tuk Tuk comic magazine, and I published the first chapter of Children of the Alley, أولاد حارتنا, for Naguib Mahfouz. And from then I start to connect contact with different publishing houses, see if they are interested in publishing something like that, making Naguib Mahfouz into comics or making Tahsin into comics. We have a lot of great writers that their work deserves to be discovered and to be seen again from a new eye, maybe a new way of or media of art. Because most of Naguib Mahfouz's work already made into movies, even movies in different languages like in Japanese or English or French. So it was very much how we can put it into comics and still make a different product and show how comics can add new ideas into this kind of work. So that's how the idea started. And after 14 years, as we were saying, the industry changed. Big publishing houses started to be interested in into making projects. I made a YA comic studio, and we start publishing comic work. We did Guga Magug, we did Wujud Ghiyab, and after that, we start discussing how we can adapt Naguib Mahfouz into comics. They got interested. We try to see the other publishing house that have the rights for the Naguib Mahfouz Diwan, and they were interested as well. So together we start working on the project. First, we started with Children of the Alley, but they wanted to make all the Naguib Mahfouz work into comics. So we made the Sieve and the Dogs as the first project that was published 2024. Then we published Miramar this year, and the next is Children of the Alley. Then after that, we are interested into turning as much as we can from Naguib Mahfouz's work and other writers as well. And this is only one line of the comics we produce because, as I said, we all the time I want to change the idea of making the comics limited to only one line. Like in the US or in the world in general, they have horror comics, they have comedy, they have even literal art or comics that are based on Shakespeare work, based on this stuff is normal and they have it all the time. Maybe we don't have it yet here, but that's how I want to people to or introduce people to comics, that it's that type of art or that type of storytelling, way of storytelling that have no limits, that we can make Naguib Mahfouz into comics. We can make, as I said, different type of drama, and all this type of dramas, all this type of ideas, that we can make it into comics very easily, and we can use all the comic tools to even rediscover this great work.
This is all super interesting, and I personally looked at the Mahfouz, the two comic book or graphic novel adaptations of Mahfouz that you did, and they're amazing. I mean,
Thank you.
you're welcome. What are you working on now? I mean, can you tell us about any future project, or at least if not an actual project, then maybe an ambition that you have, something you would in the near future would love to do or get involved in?
Mainly right now, we are working on the Naguib Mahfouz project. We have a plan, a long plan. So the next is Children of the Alley. And this is one of Naguib Mahfouz's most and one of the Naguib Mahfouz work that people really look into it. So we are working on this right now, the graphic novel, the first one, because there are five, or we're gonna turn the novel into five graphic novels. Each one would have a character. So there are five characters in the novel. The first one is Adham. This is the one coming out soon. We are also translating The Sea and the Dogs and Miramar into English, the two comic books that you mentioned. So we can show this work in, I think English is universal, so more people can see the work. We are also working on kind of education related projects, that how we include comics into educational ideas and in education in general. So we have kind of 3 or 4 projects that we are working on right now related to that with Qatar Foundation. That's pretty much most of the stuff we are working on right now. It's a studio, so it's more like we are all the projects. We have teams or a team of artists that work on each project. So I just wanted to mention that it's not only me doing all the work. I also have a lot of artists working here in the studio with me, and they are responsible of a lot of the artwork we do.
This is very interesting. So there is some kind of a movement basically that is growing in this connection between literature and comic books. And like you said, the cinema has already proved that a lot of literary works can be done visually as well. And this aspect of storytelling, and Egypt and Arabic countries in general, but Egypt especially, definitely has a very long history of visual storytelling from as old as it in its history. And it's beautiful to see this coming back. Okay, Migo, any thoughts you'd like to share with us before we conclude the interview? It was pretty interesting to talk to you, and I'm sure we'll be talking again and when we see more of your work soon, and hopefully a visit maybe to our campus at some point.
Oh, I wish, and thanks so much. Anything I want to add is I was honored and very pleased to be here with you. And hopefully my English wasn't that bad, that people would
No.
understand what I was trying to say. But in general, I just want to take from your words that there are a movement in comics, and hopefully in the next few years, we will have what we can call an industry or عايز أقول صناعة يعني you know
Yes.
there يعني يبقى في صناعة كاملة for comics. So and thanks so much.
Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm sure we'll be meeting again and following your works. وألف شكرا جزيلا. Thank you.
شكرا ليك.
This week's episode was hosted by Wissam El-Maliki. It was produced and edited by Muhammad Jafar. Our theme song was composed by Isra Darwish, and our logo was designed by Maysara Abdelhaq. Scene Jeem is brought to you by the Center for Arab American Studies at the University of Michigan Dearborn and the Arab American National Museum. It is funded by the University of Michigan Arts Initiative and the Center for Arab American Studies at the University of Michigan Dearborn. Check our website, scenejeempodcast.com, for more info on our guests. Thank you for listening.